I've been using the Analogue Pocket for about 3 to 4 months now, and I think it's time to give some sort of product feedback or review of it. I do want to make it clear that this isn't going to be a total review on this device and all the capabilities it has. This is going to be more on my personal experience and how I use it. I definitely don't use the Analogue Pocket to its fullest extent. Like, I know this thing's capable of a lot more than what I put it through. However, for me, I just personally use this device to play my own Pokemon games and I guess any other Game Boy games, but recently it's really only been Pokemon. I know you can use like an SD card and emulate games and all that stuff. I personally don't do that, so I'm just going to be focusing on basically using this as a very expensive Game Boy, because that is really all I use it for. I do want to go over first the physical aspects of this device, and then we'll go into, I guess, more user experience. And I do also want to compare it to like a normal Game Boy or Game Boy SP and kind of that, again, user experience. So the sizing of this device feels appropriate. It feels nice to hold. It does feel like a block, you know, like it's kind of heavy too, but it's because it's got a big battery in it. Like, it lasts a long time, but we'll get that in a minute. But it feels nice to hold in your hand, I will definitely say. The next feature is obviously going to be the screen. This is like the main reason I love this device. Is look at that screen. It's absolutely gorgeous. Definitely one of the best screens I've seen on like almost any modded Game Boy. I mean, like, I haven't seen every modded Game Boy ever, but I do have like the IPS screen, and it is quite comparable, but I still think whatever screen they used on the Pocket it's perfect. It really enhances the quality of the game, and it's also really nice to record, again, like videos like this. So definitely absolutely love the screen. I think it's like 9 out of 10. I don't really think it could get much better. Within the settings of the Pocket, you can also change some aspects of the screen itself, or like how you're viewing it. I haven't really messed with it at all, but there are some things you can do. I typically change the brightness a lot. Like, I go high for recording. When I go play like at night in bed or whatever, I lower that brightness down. So that's a very handy feature. Use that like every single day I use this game. Gonna be moving away from the screen. There's nothing more I really want to say about it other than the screen itself is amazing. Moving over to the left side, we do have an on-off switch. There's a green button, and we do have like the audio for up and down, raise the volume and lower it. I really I think hate's a good word here, volume switches. Like, they're hard to hit, they're small, you can barely, I don't know why these are like this, but you can't, like, if I wanted to raise the volume, I guess I got chubby thumbs too, but like, hitting these is not very easy, at least for me. I think they could have done a better job with the buttons. The on-off switch is fine. It's in, I guess, kind of a weird spot, but it's fine. This does have a sleep mode, so it's kind of like a DS. It's like if you ever, had a 3DS, or I guess even like Switch now, you can just hit the button and it kind of goes into like some sleep mode, so the game's still running, but it's not using too much battery. It's a good feature, but I definitely have some gripes with it, which we need to dedicate an entire section to, so definitely don't skip that, especially if you intend on playing Pokemon games. Moving over to the main buttons you're going to be using when playing games, this like D-pad area, I think they could have done definitely a better job too. It just doesn't feel that great too, like when you're navigating things like easily, it doesn't like flow. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it doesn't feel very responsive. It feels a little more clunky. Same thing with these buttons over here. These upper like X and Y kind of buttons, they don't feel that bad, but for the games I play, like, I don't use those at all. One general thing with all these buttons are, I think they could have done just a better job with how the buttons feel. Like, for this device itself, it feels like strong and like powerful, and the screen looks beautiful. Then you get to touching these buttons and it just feels like I'm playing with like a dollar store toy. Again, this might be just me and my personal preference, but like, I modded a Game Boy and I just bought new buttons and like pads, and that feels great. Like, you can even hear it too. Like, they feel cheap. Also, these buttons down here, they're so small. I don't know. I think these buttons, all the buttons, if they had to redesign this, you can make them a whole lot better. Definitely. I'm gonna stop talking about the buttons. I think that's enough. Over here, we got like an SD card slot. You can, put some stuff in. On the back, we got our L and R buttons, which these actually feel pretty good. They feel similar to the older Game Boy. Got the slot for the cartridge. Got a nice sturdy battery. So quickly talk about the battery. Battery itself lasts a long time. Like I could play this game for like 10 hours a day and it just won't die. So battery, great. However, charging the battery, we see it was a USB-C or something down here. The same thing as like the Nintendo Switch, really convenient to use for a charging port. Sometimes it takes like no time at all to charge, and other times it takes like, I'm talking like hours and it'll go up like 10%. I don't know if it's just because like the thing that I'm plugged into, or sometimes it charges great. Other times it doesn't charge really at all. That is one thing I've noticed. But battery lasts a long time. It's very convenient with the USB-C, so I'm definitely happy with that. Down here, I actually don't remember what that's for. And we do have a audio jack, or is this 3.5 millimeter for headphone jack. So haven't used that yet, but in case you want to game with your headphones on, you can do that. I guess one thing too, I mean, this is more software, but I love how I can see the battery down here to know when I need to charge it. There's definitely a lot of things within the settings that you can like mess around with and stuff like that, but I don't go too deep in here. One thing too I want to comment about is the size of it. I think it's a good size. It's great for traveling. You have to buy it separately, but I bought this little case to actually put this in because it feels fragile. It's kind of expensive and I don't want to get banged around, you know, in car trips and stuff like that. So it's definitely portable like other Game Boys, but you probably need a case or something to keep it safe. So now we have to go over something really bad about this device. And I'm not going to go into the super nitty gritty because I'm not even sure I fully understand it. However, I'm going to leave a link in the description, or as well as to some comments that kind of dive a little bit deeper into this. And I guess I'll briefly go over what happens, but essentially this console, this device, if you're playing Pokemon, maybe it happens with other games, but I've only heard it with Pokemon so far. If you have a Pokemon cartridge in here and you put it in sleep mode, or you just turn off the game without first going in here and clicking quit, there is a it's small, but it's there and it's happened to people. It will delete your save file in like your sleep mode or when you're powered it off if you don't first quit the game. And you might think this is crazy, but no, it's happened. And I've given enough time and trying to get other people's input when they're using this device to see exactly kind of what's going on. And from other people on the internet, it has not happened to me. Although now I'm being extra careful, so it should not happen. But people have put this in sleep mode or have turned it off and have come back and their save file is just deleted. So why does this happen? So don't quote me on any of this, but I'm going to kind of give some bro science as to why this happens. Essentially, there's some internal memory on this device. When you put it in sleep mode or just power it down without quitting the game, the save file or save state goes elsewhere. And then when you go to load the game, or let's say you pull the game out or something happens and you put it back in and you try to load that save state or that save file, sometimes it gets confused. Something happens there. I don't know. I'm not an expert. Something happens between the save states, and there's a possibility that your save state doesn't get loaded back. So now the important thing though is, how do you prevent this from happening? And the easiest thing you can do is, before you actually power off the game, first of all, don't use sleep mode at all unless you're like a risk taker, I don't know. And also don't power off your game just from this. Just don't power it off. What you need to do first is obviously save your file. Then you're gonna go click on the middle button down here and then actually quit the game itself. This is obviously again after you save, if you want it to save. Okay, again, I don't know all the specifics. The Pocket itself is not gonna make like its own save state, which it could then upload to your cartridge or whatever. If anybody has more specific technical information on this, definitely leave it down below in the comment section and I will pin the comment. I don't necessarily know all the specifics and details. I just know that this has the ability to retain some save states or save files, and it has the potential to mess up your actual save file and delete your Pokemon game cartridge files. So I just want to acknowledge that and how to get around it. Yeah, so far I've not had this issue and I've been doing just quitting the game normally, and again, no issues, still backing up my save files and being cautious. But yeah, I do not use this. The sleep function is great, but you can't really use it because you got a risk of losing your entire game. So kind of unfortunate. The last thing I want to talk about is like the nostalgic factor of this. And to me, there unfortunately is none. Like when I pick up the Game Boy Advance, like that is my nostalgic handheld device or my nostalgic console that I play games on. I could pick that up and it just takes me back. Even a modded SP with like the IPS screen and buttons and all that stuff, it still gives me that feeling of nostalgia. When I pick up the Analogue Pocket, it just isn't there. So if you're gonna buy this thinking that you might feel nostalgic and everything, again, you might. Like this is my personal opinion, but I personally did not and do not feel like it doesn't feel nostalgic to play on this device, which is like, it's understandable. I'm not saying that I expected it, but it's just something to be aware of. But when I do play again on the SP, man, it feels great. Also, it might help to be aware that I never actually played on the original Game Boy Advance. I only played on the SP, and this does kind of mimic more of the Advance because it doesn't have that flip screen. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that. No nostalgic factor here, which is unfortunate, but makes sense. So final thoughts. Should you buy? Well, I'm obviously not going to tell you what to do, but I think this is a great device, and I have not unlocked its full potential and what it's capable of doing, but I don't necessarily really care either. For what I use this device for, I think it gets the job done quite well. It's great for videos and recording. It feels good. It's good for long road trips. The screen is beautiful. I can play it at night and also like broad daylight because of the screen and being able to adjust the brightness. It's super handy. Again, the battery life is just so great, so long. The buttons do take away from the actual experience itself. However, it's not the end of the world, right? Like I can live with that. However, I think this thing's like $300-400. So like for that amount of money, you can buy like one of the best, coolest Game Boy Advance SPs or a modded SP with like the screen, like LEDs, like better buttons, even like a design on the SP itself. I think the shell. I think, you know, if you gave me like $300-400 right now, and I was like, I can either buy this or I could buy a modded SP. I'm buying the modded SP 100% every time. Again, it's also because it has a nostalgic factor too. I think this device is great. I would not say it's worth $300, even $400, maybe like $200, $250. Just trying to get a gauge. But if I had to recommend anything, it would probably be for this money, you could just buy a really good modded SP or Game Boy Advance, and you would probably save some money and get a better product. Again though, there are things that this does that like modded SPs, not that they can't do, but it might be too difficult. So definitely take that into consideration. But again, from my personal experience and what I'm using this for, I don't necessarily need this. It's definitely awesome to have though, but I think I would prefer a modded SP. Anyway though, hope you enjoyed the review and thoughts on this product. I think I do show enough footage in this video of the product, but if you want to see my Pokemon adventures, definitely got a lot of videos on that. Take care, everybody. Hopefully this helped either make your decision or inform you more about the product itself. Take care, everybody.